GovCast from South Florida. Here we go, Super Bowl week. None of us got a team, though. We're all out. Everybody's spectator, just a spectator this week. Got nothing. Everybody's favorite team, out. Daggum it. We had a lot of shots, too. We have a lot of former champions hanging out. Thought we have a good run at it, but no. Everybody's out, right? Dre's Bills are out. We're so blessed today. Scott Leese is here. Bills fan. We just found that out. So they're out. Ravens are out. Eagles have been way out. What were they?
Way out. Not a chance.
Were they like 5-11 this year?
Oh, it's been sad.
They gutted the coach too, right? They gutted. They just got rid of the coach.
Dougie P's gone. I don't know what's happening with our team. We got a new coach in there. I don't even know where this guy's from. So it's gonna be a rebuilding year in 2021. So.
That's what happens. Look, what did he do in that last game when he bailed? He ripped the quarterback, and the NFL is not happy. When you win it, when you're losing on purpose, this is not the NBA here. They were like Ixnay on the coach trying to lose it.
That was when they played the Steelers?
The Giants. They
had, Giants. Just kidding. I knew this.
Oh, no. We played. Yeah, the Giants would have went into the playoffs and we won. It was this big.
They pulled your starter or some kid has never played. I mean,
yeah, no, he's played before. He's our third string quarterback.
No. Listen, let's do introductions. We haven't started the show. Dre, tell them who you are.
Hi, good to see everybody. Andrea, it's been a little while, I feel like, since I've been on here, so happy to be back with everybody.
Who are you repping there? What jersey you got on? Who you got?
Well, I don't know who the player is. I just know it's the Bills.
Buffalo Bills 25. I think that's McCoy. Old school. Gone. Stevie B?
Hey there, everybody. Steve Bryan, Dean of GovSales University. As Jack was mentioning, it's tough to be an Eagles fan, but you still got to show your color. Stick by your team through thick and thin.
Amen. Listen, Oriole fan, long suffering since 83. So I know the drill. So got my look. I brought my Super Bowl trophy, the best sales team in the world. Hooked me up with that a couple years ago.
Let us see it.
There it is. Look, let's wave. Signed by Ray Lewis. You only can touch it with gloves. I got my gloves on. I had to move it around my spot here. So the best sales team in the world got me that a couple years ago. Football is my vice of choice, so we can just deviate. This whole show, I got a feeling we're going to be talking football. Super Bowl this Sunday. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Kansas City Chiefs. Will Tom get one more or pass the torch? Who do we got? Before we bring Scott in? Who you got?
Andy Reid, baby. Let's go. You stick with my Eagles. So Andy Reid and the Chiefs, baby.
You fired him. Didn't you fire him?
What's that? Yeah, we fire the best coaches. We're messed up over here.
Oh, Dre.
I want the Bucks to win.
Oh, there you go. Listen, I don't know who
he's already won. I mean, he's nice, and I don't know. He's good, obviously, but I think it's time for the Bucks, and it's in their hometown. So
Tom has won like 800 Super Bowls. But
the Bucks haven't.
They got one. No, they got one under Gruden a little while back. So yeah, we'll see. So super exciting. Good luck. Enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend. Today we're so blessed. One of the reasons I love doing the GovCast is every once in a while we get a superstar. Somehow I think our team blackmails them or somehow gets them in, or Stevie B finds out something. And so today we're super blessed to have Scott Leese on the show. So I'm sure you know Scott. Listen, all the things: 6-time sales leader, 3-time founder, 2-time author, sales consultant, strategic advisor to startup. The man, the myth, the legend, Scott Leese. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, bro. Representing the Bills, you got anything you want to say back there? I see Jim Kelly's repping behind you. So
yeah, this is my son got me this signed Jim Kelly jersey for Christmas.
That's awesome.
Cool, nice. Pretty good jersey, and I'm wearing my Josh Allen jersey that I won off a friend and competitor of mine, who shall nameless.
Look, Scott's trying to be nice. Look, he's trying to be nice. He said before the show, some Ravens fan, they beat him down and they got him the jersey. So hooked up from Baltimore. He's got a brand new Josh Allen jersey. So
Scott, have you tried? I don't know what they're called. They're like Apple Jacks, but they're Josh Allen's, like the cereal. Have you seen it yet? Guys, my fiance's mom has sent us a lot of boxes. They were like $4, and now they're selling for like 100 something. They're going for a lot now.
They would have gone.
Instead, in lieu of my fee for appearing on this show, you can mail me a box of this cereal so I can give it to my show.
Look it up.
How about that?
Yeah, I would assume, look, it's only in the greater Buffalo area there, Dre. I assume
it is.
Country, Josh Allen Luke are not very popular, but I bet you in Upper New York they're selling like hotcakes. But a little less now, but it's okay. We're all suffering right now. We're all out. So, Scott, I know probably 99% of the folks that are watching and listening, I've heard of you, but I'd love for you. Can you just tell folks a little about your amazing background and just to level set. And for our audience, we won't talk a lot about government sales today, thank God, to bore you to tears. Today, we're going to talk about bigger and better things. So tell the world.
Yeah, thanks. I've been building and scaling sales organizations for almost 20 years now. I've been an operator 6 times as a senior vice president of sales. My specialty is taking companies from essentially zero revenue to 20, 25 million in ARR. And I usually do that in about 2.5 to 3 years. So 5 out of the 6 times I was an operator, successfully got companies from 0 to 20 to 25 in under 3 years. And, slowly started building a consulting business out of that, and finally cut the cord October of 2019. So a couple months before, the pandemic hit. And I'm an advisor to startups all over the world. I've written a couple books now. I have a 3rd one coming out later this spring. I run my own consulting company, Surf and Sales, which is a micro sales conference that I hold down in Costa Rica a couple times a year. And I also run the Surf and Sales podcast, which is on track to do 250,000 downloads so far this year. We did 200 episodes alone in 2020. Started another business called Thursday Night Sales. Right in March, it came out. We had a little virtual sales happy hour.
The GovCast team popping along with.
I know, my God, they were ready to go. It's like we rehearsed. We didn't even rehearse this. I'm massively impressed. I'm not going to lie. We had over 10,000 people come to our virtual sales happy hours in 2020, and
awesome.
Business has kind of grown. We got its own Slack community now. I run my own Patreon community. I got my hands in a lot of cookie jars, So a long intro, but I had to try to squeeze as much in as I could.
That is awesome. Listen, and the goal would be, I'd love to go through those, because I think some of those are so many great resources for our audience, and so many things that work in the private sector, work and selling to the government. And so I'd love to break those down. The one that I think to start with, as an entrepreneur myself, is talking about, hey, what are the key when you start working with a company with 0 sales and you get them to 25 mil ARR? So in that quick time frame. Like, what are the biggest things you see? What are the keys to making that happen? Right? And what are some of the mistakes you see folks doing as you start to interact with those companies? Have a good idea, no sales, and like, what are the key things to get them out of the gate?
Well, most founders and people who have built these companies and products, they really fall in love with what they built, and so they want to share their passion with you, and so they start talking to you about every single little thing that the product can do. And newsflash, nobody cares. People only care about a couple of those things. And they might only need to care about one thing in order to buy. So you just end up talking yourself out of a deal. The analogy that I use all the time is, if you go car shopping, like, I'm not a car guy at all. I could give 2 shits about cars.
Me neither.
What color is it? Can I get, is it somewhat safe for me to, get there? What's the gas mileage? That's it. It's a wrap. I don't need to know anything else. So if I go to the dealership and Steven's there and he's talking to me about, the 0 to 60 speed and the size of the engine and the brake pads and all, like, you lost me, dog. Like, I'm not buying from you. I'm out. It's a wrap. And people sell that way with their product, particularly founders who have built the product, right? So the first thing we do is simplify. I got to simplify and strip away all this stuff that is not super important. That's the first step. The second thing that you got to do is you've got to build a sales process out. I can't have a couple people selling and everybody's doing things differently. That's an unscalable solution. Yep. You'll be able to get to 1 million or 2, and then the thing will implode upon itself. So we've got to come up with the right pitch, the right story, the right way to respond to different, objections we're going to run into. What's our process? Are we using email? Are we using the phone? Are we using social? Are we doing video prospecting? All these different channels that are out there, right? What are we measuring? Are we measuring the same thing, right? All of this stuff kind of goes into the building and codifying of what I would call a sales playbook.
Yep.
And so many people don't take the time to do that. They've got all this information kind of siloed and locked away in their head, and extracting that out of their head and getting it on paper. So the 10th, 20th, and 100th employee can replicate what has been working. That's the missing piece. And so, I really got good at that particular part. And I've built my whole career around that niche.
That's so awesome. I would say, as somebody who talks to and through this show, and I think a lot of founders, I totally agree. You ask a founder of the company, they like go on for. They would go for like 20 minutes. And when somebody asks you about our company, I'm like, I'll give you the short version. Then you can ask questions because they'll just go on and on. You're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Show's over. We've had shows. Well, that's like 3 questions. We have okay. Show's over. This person talked for 40 minutes.
And if I was to ask you all that question, and you might give me the long answer. And I might have heard something super interesting in the first like 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And the whole rest of the time you've been talking, that interesting thing is losing all its impact.
Yeah.
And now I'm not focused on what that thing was. I'm starting to think to myself, is this dude ever going to shut up?
Yeah, amen.
Like, right? And now I'm like, oh God, how did I get into this conversation? And the irritation starts. I don't know if you're around somebody who's like a long storyteller.
Oh yeah.
Like, I have some of these people in my life and I'm like, oh God, can you get to the fucking point already? Right? So you got to be really careful with that,
We have some people on staff. You see them coming in the hall, you'll be like, "Oh, we gotta go."
Yeah, we've all had those folks. Yeah.
Amen.
I don't got 10 minutes to kill right now.
Yeah.
Say, Scott, I was listening to a podcast, I guess a few years back with was it Jeffrey Gitomer? You were on his.
Yeah. Sell or Die is the
Sell or
show.
Die. That's it.
I love Gittimer. Yeah.
He's a big Eagles fan, by the way, Steve.
Yeah. Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. But I love what you said. As far as like trusting the process, right? Like every founder wants to have a scalable, repeatable process, right? That's the only way to grow a team. But you talked about finding the pain, right? Like that is the first thing, as far as the process. But then, building the value, creating urgency, and discussing your solutions is like at the end. But if you don't find their need up front, that's what are you talking about, right? If you don't have a problem, then what are you really solving? So when you're going into a net new company, like what are some, I guess, tips and tricks of the trade that you finally, connect those dots to start your process to help them out with their sales?
Well, if I'm the sales leader coming in, this is where me having a conversation with the founder and the folks who built the product is really important. And unfortunately, if you're a VP of sales, a lot of times you get hired and the expectation is like, go make deals happen. We need revenue right away. And you as the VP of sales, you're like, you feel this pressure. Like I gotta prove my worth like straight away. And so you skip over this really important part, which is you need to learn.
Yeah.
You got to go in like super humble. Like, I don't know shit about this industry. I don't know anything about this product right here. I don't know anything about our customers. Right. So you've got to spend time and it's time you're never going to get back as a student. You got to be learning. So I can't answer those questions, Stephen, until I learn more about what is this problem that we're solving, coming from my founder's mind, coming from the engineer's mind, coming from customer's mind or prospect's mind. So I've got to go ask all these things. I've got to, kind of put them all together and then look at what I've got and figure out a path forward. How can I craft a conversation? What's the right question for me to ask to get Stephen to admit to me that he has this particular problem? Now, how do I tell a story to make sure Stephen believes this problem is important to solve? Now that he believes it's important, how do I make him understand that this is a severed limb and not a paper cut? This is something that demands immediate attention that we can't put off.
Yeah.
And then and only then is it my belief that somebody cares about the solution and what you do. And now it's your chance to talk about, how you solve that. And that whole sales philosophy for me, I call it the addiction model of selling because I mirrored it after recovery. It's a well-documented story. My book is called Addicted to the Process. I spent 4 years in my early 20s in the hospital fighting for my life. I've had more surgeries than I can count. And throughout that process, I got addicted to opioids. And so, going through the recovery process and kicking off of dope, and then getting into sales a few years later, I started to realize holy shit, this is the same thing. I got to admit that I have a problem.
Yeah.
I got to understand there's a reason to actually get healthy and get clean. I got to believe that there's a reason to do it now, right? I'm going to lose my family, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my kids, I'm going to die, all this kind of stuff. And then and only then is somebody interested in rehab or recovery. You don't go walk up to an addict and be like, hey, Steven, I got this killer rehab facility called Passages in Malibu. You ready to go? The reaction is going to be like, piss off. What are you talking about? No.
I got everything under control here. I'm okay.
Exactly. So it's the same thing when you sell. If I call you up, Jack, and I'm like, hey, Jack, you got a problem. You ready to go solve it? You'd be like, dude, get off my lawn. What are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
But if I slow it down and I ask questions until Jack's like, yeah, you know what? I do have this particular problem. Like, our software is like super inefficient. I'm wasting time all over the place. I'm making errors. Oh, okay. Well, I hear that a lot from people in your industry. You know why it would be important to solve that? And then kind of educate them and have that conversation. Be like, okay, what are you losing right now because of this problem? Like, this is a pretty big deal. This is like not just a couple $100 a month. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars a month here, which is, $500,000 a year. Like, this is a big deal. And you sort of start cranking up the intensity, right? At some point, if you've done this right, the person's like, so Scott, like, this is what you do? This is what your company does? You solve this problem for people? Oh yeah, thank you. You just gave me permission to pitch. Now we're on the same wavelength. And that's the flow that I've been executing for 20 plus years, and that I put in the book, and that I've taught my sales teams as an operator, and I teach the companies that I work with.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
So my question is on a little bit of a different page, but more so in terms of salespeople that you've worked with. So like, if you had to maybe say your top maybe 3 to 5 qualities that you see in the top salespeople that you've met or trained, what would that look like?
They're super resilient, number one. They are very curious and kind of always wanting to learn and get a little bit better. They are creative, meaning, if one door is closed, they're finding a different door, or they're going up and over or under, the closed door. That kind of translates itself into use of different channels or creative messaging and copy and emails or videos or even text, things like that. I feel almost a little bit hesitant, which is a reflection of the day and age, unfortunately, but like, people who have been the top producers to me are super competitive. And there's a whole like vibe right now where it's like taboo to talk about how, salespeople are competitive and salespeople want money. Guess what? I didn't get into sales 20 something years ago because I wanted to solve people's problems all day long. And I know that's the like, nice and sweet and cuddly thing to say right now, but that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't mean I'm a psychopath and I just want to sit in a boiler room and work on Wall Street all day. But I think it's a mistake to discredit the competitiveness that is inherent. It doesn't even have to be outward competitiveness, Dre, where I'm like, talking trash to you back and forth or things like that. Like, I could be competing silently, right? Like, I see you on the board and it drives me nuts even if I don't vocalize it. It could just be me competing with myself, where I did 10 deals last month and I'm like, oh man, I gotta do 11, this coming month, right? So those are, I think that's 4 characteristics that I just gave you. The 5th thing, if I'd add one, is they always stay humble and coachable. Always. They recognize that there's always somebody out there who's bigger, badder, faster, stronger, makes more money, more successful, right? And so they never get too like pleased with themselves or too good that they stop trying to learn from somebody. Even if I'm better than you by a long shot, if you make a sale, they're the type of people who come up to you and they say, hey, Dre, great job on that deal. Like, what worked for you? What worked for you? And I'm just listening for one thing that maybe is a reminder that I forgot about, or one thing that is new that you're doing that maybe I can incorporate and test. So there's a little bit of like humility that's in there. Those are my top 5.
I love it. I
always down. I want to share them with my team later. So
I was gonna say,
I'm writing them down.
I always talk about the hustle piece when people are like, what are your best reps? It's the hustle piece. And I love the last thing you said, Scott, because to me, it's always the details, right? For me, a lot of sales folks are like ADHD and they're like, oh, I listened to so-and-so's demo or a sales call. I got all that. And you're like, I know, but bro, you're on your phone and you're texting and you miss, it's all the little subtleties, right? It's the small little details like that make it great. It's everyone knows the pitch and FAQs. Like you're not moving the earth. You know what I mean? We all know that. It's like the best people do the smallest things great. And that's where all the big money is made. Hey, I want to get to the surf and sales and the Thursday nights sales event that you have. But I wanted to go back really quick. I appreciate your openness about your life and your young life and being in recovery. And I think we're honest. A lot of sales folks have that work hard, play hard, kind of the world pours into them, and that's where happiness is. And so, I guess I just want to open the door and just maybe have you speak into that a little, because I think it's hard for, especially we have a younger team and the 20 and 30s are like, oh, I'm going to work hard, and Friday night at 5 o'clock, I'm going all in, and they're wiped out on Sunday. And so I love whatever you'd want to share about that process for you, and where you moved to today, and the difference, and maybe some of the pitfalls that are in that world, because not a lot of people want to speak about that. It's so palpable, particularly among sales folks, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I just a couple of days ago, I wrote a post on LinkedIn where I'm super active, and it went pretty nuts, viral, if you will. It's got a couple 100,000 views, and I was basically just talking about how most people fell into sales. And,
oh, right. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and it's a disrespected kind of profession, right?
Yep.
It's like there's not even university degrees still for sales,
Yep.
right? And we tend to be a group of workers who couldn't figure out what else to do with our lives, candidly. So we fell into this thing. We're charming, we're funny, right? We're competitive, we're charismatic, but we're not that smart necessarily, right? We didn't get into MIT or Harvard, right? We weren't disciplined enough to, go to med school or law school or things like that. We weren't fortunate enough to, go get an MBA and kind of weasel our way into an internship at a venture capital firm when we were 20 years old. Like, we're kind of degenerates, or at least half degenerates, or misfits, right? We fell into this shit. We made a lot of bad decisions in our lives, right? People, some people have been in and out of jail. Some people have had addiction issues. Some people got 6 kids by 6 different women. All of these things are real life situations that if you have been in sales long enough, is a part of your everyday. And if I walk onto your sales floor right now, which I don't know anything about y'all's sales floor, I promise you, I've just described a few people.
Yep.
And especially people who are in their 20s and sometimes even in their early 30s, they're still letting it rip all the time. They come into the office, hungover, they're blowing coke on Friday and Saturday night and just going wild, right? For me, I could have been doing all that stuff, and maybe I would have, but I lost this 4-year period of my early and mid 20s. And so I ended up growing up real fast. And I think I ended up at 27 with a level of maturity and appreciation for the limited amount of opportunities that we have in this life, that most people don't get until later on, and some people never get. So I've just tried to be, open and honest about, the struggles that I've had with my health and continue to have with my health. I don't struggle with addiction at all anymore, but I struggle with my health a lot. And I've been through a lot of the things that others have been through. And as a leader, I feel like the best way for me to help people is to let people know that I'm just like them, and I bring it down to we're on the same level here, right? And you talk to people about these things. You talk to people about what do you want to do with your life. I'm a firm believer that better people sell better.
Amen.
So I don't spend all the time trying to teach somebody how to pitch or teach somebody how to close. I talk to people about their finances. I talk to people about their relationships. I talk to people about their emotions and their pain and their trauma. 75% of my job as a sales leader at times felt like being a therapist to 250, 300 sales reps and sales managers. That's my job.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm eating all of that stress.
Yeah.
And helping them deal with it. I don't look and act and talk like a normal VP of sales. A stereotypical VP of sales is like a Patagonia wearing motherfucker with grease in his beard. That ain't me. This is the shortest you'll ever see my beard. I look like a homeless person. I dress the way I did in high school. I keep it real and I tell the truth. And salespeople, the majority of salespeople, at least in tech and SaaS where I operate,
Yeah.
they can relate to me more than they can relate to this Stanford MBA sales leader person whose parents have a trust fund.
Yeah.
And that has served me very well in my career. And
awesome.
so, you know, I think if I talk about it, that paves the way for some other people to talk about it. And we can normalize some of these conversations, and we can get people who are really struggling the help that they need. And we can get some people maybe to mature a little sooner than they otherwise would. And our team and our companies will be better because of it.
That's great. Thank you. That's awesome. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's piggybacking off of that, because, you know, breaking it down, just connecting with people at the core of who they are, like everything in life will start, you know, happening, you know, if you take care of yourself. And when I saw your surf and sail summit, being a water sport guy myself, I worked up in New York City for the big.
That's right. Steven's wheelhouse. Look, here we go.
Yeah, well, I left my career in 2008 because the boss said, "Hey, no one's getting promotions, no one's getting raises this year," and that's what I was working my butt off 12 hours a day on that grind to level up. And when I said, I'm going to go create my own destiny, and I won a state contract for a government agency in Maryland. Did paddleboard rentals, kayak rentals, and sailboat rentals.
Cool.
And when I saw your surf and sail summit, I was like really excited. I'm like, wait, is this really like the guy takes them to retreat? I saw like Costa Rica on there.
Yeah.
And I thought like that just takes down all those barriers to tie into what you said. Like you put people in an environment where they feel comfortable. And I'd love to just hear more about those summits, and, you know, maybe a success story of someone that's attended those summits where you helped change their life, of, you know, just really breaking down those walls.
Man, there's, you know, I wish I could just share with you some of the emails and texts that I've gotten from people who've been to the events, because they really do say like, "Holy shit, this changed my life." This all started, I think.
How many folks normally are there at the event?
18.
About 18.
18.
A small group.
On purpose. The whole reason that this summit started was it was Thanksgiving. And I went down to Costa Rica with my family and my friend Richard Harris and his family. So we were having like a non-traditional Thanksgiving, and we're out surfing in the water. And I'm giving Richard shit because he has to go to conferences like all over the place, all the time, right? Because he speaks and does trainings at this thing and that thing. And I'm like, oh, have fun in St. Louis at the Marriott. Like, that sounds awesome, right? And I'm like, how come nobody ever has a conference in a cool place like this? And Richard literally said, I don't know, Scott, why don't you make one? And I'm like, well, it would probably be easier if it was not just me. Why don't you help me make one? He's like, all right, let's do it. And I think he was like, you know, kind of half kidding. Well, I'm the type of person that the delta between idea and action for me is very, very small. Like, I'm not somebody that thinks and overthinks things. Like, that's a good idea. Oh, I go do it. So we came in from the water and we told our wives, and the wives were like, that's actually a pretty good idea, guys. And it was game on after that. You know, we got home and we plunked down money like within a couple of weeks and reserved all these, houses right on the water. And the whole idea was, I was having this vibe where like everything was going macro. And I'm, contrary to how I might come off on this podcast, like I'm actually a very shy, reserved person. I'm a wallflower. I'm not the guy who goes to a party and is the life of the party. I hate going to like a Dreamforce kind of situation where there's 250,000 people running around a convention hall. Like that's my absolute living nightmare.
Like a Tony Robbins conference or something like that.
Yeah, you won't see me there, dog. No, that's not happening. So I had this idea. It was like, we need to get back to micro community, micro event, smaller, intimate, experiential, more personal, like deeper, relationship building and conversations. And so I purposely thought, we got to keep this to like 15 guests. And there's me, Richard, and our friend Jeff, who does a lot of back end kind of stuff and planning it. So there's 18 of us. And, we rent out 3 houses right on the water. We have locals come and cook and clean every single day. We hire locals to teach people how to surf and take us on little excursions to go, zip lining or in the jungle and all this kind of stuff. So it's like a combination of sales and leadership, coaching during the day. And, you surf a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours at night. And then the really cool stuff is, you're just chopping it up over drinks and good food and, with like-minded people who have spent money to go there, and you're in this beautiful location, totally out of the norm in your comfort zone, and everybody's guards come down. We've had people hire each other. We've had people close each other in terms of customers and whatnot, right? And we have a little community where people, somebody needs a job, boom, we all go to work. So we have this alumni group now of like 60-something people who've come. And that's what it's all about, Stephen. We were supposed to do 3 in 2020. Obviously, COVID kind of wrecked that. But we snuck one in February, right before all hell broke loose. And we're ready to go. As soon as we're able. I think we're going to go down there for a month, literally a month, and run four cohorts in a row, just bang, 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 bang. So
when is it, I saw on the website, it's still TBD right now. Do you know the time?
Yeah, I can't, I can't predict no more than anybody else. And
got it.
I'm hesitant to like pick a date and then have to change it and all this kind of thing. So we haven't said anything yet, but hopefully in 2021, hopefully.
Our team, look, Dre will attest to, our team is dipped down to look all the Caribbean and South America. Every time they come back with COVID. Literally, I've probably had
I didn't come back with COVID. I was in Tulum when I came back.
I know. I was gonna say
when I went there.
Okay.
What part of Costa Rica do you go to typically?
We go to Playa Grande, which is just barely north of Tamarindo.
How far?
We've got it all down. Paco is way far south on the Pacific side from where we are.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I got a question. So, especially with COVID going on, a lot of times our discussions are about bettering yourselves, and the best salespeople are never done learning, right? They're continuously trying to improve, and whether that's podcasts and books. And I know you've got a couple of books, so I was hoping that you could either talk about those, or if there's any like really great podcasts that you like of other people, just something that we can kind of share with our team, have them listen to too.
So, dirty little secret about me. I don't listen to podcasts. I run my own podcast. I appear and record probably 3 or 4 a week, just like this one. I never listen to them. I never listen to myself back on tape and grade myself. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just being honest about all that. I'm not an auditory learner.
Okay.
Like, I can't learn. I don't retain any information. If I'm going to listen to an audiobook, it's going to be like, I think the last one I listened to was hell's his name? Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses. Like, I'm listening to some book that like entertainment value. It doesn't matter if I'm paying attention, right? So I can't really recommend podcasts other than the GovCast podcast and the Surf and Sales podcast. No, those are the only 2 podcasts. Those are the only 2 podcasts worth it, right? As far as books go, I wrote my first book, Addicted to the Process, which became a bestseller. And, it's kind of geared for people who are just getting into sales and all about like the mindset required and coming up with this, kind of codified process of selling and the addiction model and whatnot. And then I just released January 1st, this book that I co-authored with my friend Ryan Walker called From Rep to Manager.
Yeah.
I kind of saw a gap in the market where nobody kind of teaches you and trains you on, if you're a good individual contributor, like what you need to do in order to become a sales leader. And my 3rd book comes out in a couple months. It's called More Than a Number. And it's about the life and times of a VP of sales, which is, again, not talked about all that much, right?
Yeah.
So those are some books, of mine. I do try to read. It gets harder and harder as you have kids and your kids get older and more active. And I get older and I get more. I try to read now and I'll fall asleep after like 3 or 4 pages. So it's a process. And Jack is probably older than me, so he probably understands what I'm talking about.
I got to stack my books. Right. I love hearing read.
That stack is probably like mine. That stack's probably been there since 2008.
I got 2. I got 2 down. When I vacation, I sneak them in. Right. Sneak them in.
That's what we do. But I'm a big fan of non-sales and business books for me in my life. I'm a big fan of reading biographies and things about history and just kind of finding motivation and inspiration in unlikely places as it pertains to sales and sales leadership, and kind of taking those things, right? So like I might read a biography of Bill Walsh, coach of the San Francisco 49ers, for example. Well, that one is an easy line to draw, right? From coaching and leadership over here to sales leadership and whatnot. But I might read the biography of Bob Marley, which I've done, by the way, and it's like 600 pages long. And scattered all through there is like challenges, overcoming struggle, dealing with people doubting you, and all this kind of things, and business decisions, and like reclaiming the rights to your music and these kind of things. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can apply that. So I get fired up about those kind of things. And then right now, today, there's all these networks everywhere, all these resources that didn't exist when Jack and I were growing up, from LinkedIn to Thursday night sales community, to Surf and Sales, to Patreon, to Rev Genius, to Revenue Collective, all of these things. Man, I mean, Thursday night sales, for example, you could show up on Thursday night. There'll be 200 to 400 people on this Zoom call with me and my co-host, Amy Bolas, who you can see in this ridiculous American Gothic picture right here. That's my co-host. The community sent Amy and I these paintings for Christmas, and so I, of course, had to hang it on my wall. And they just fire off questions at us, and we give our answer based on our experience. And the chat is just like insane to follow because everybody's chiming in, giving their answers to questions, and people are helping each other find jobs and all this kind of stuff. Like, not taking advantage of these communities and the rise of the micro community in 2020 in particular is really stupid, to be honest with you. And anybody who's not, I really question right now their burning desire to improve and get better and grow in their career.
Yeah. I think it's funny when we talk to our team, we have a couple hundred folks, and it's like when you ask folks like, hey, what podcast or books you read, once you get no answer, you're like, oh, weird. That's a big warning sign, right? There's so many things out there that I could not agree more. I think
people should be doing something. I think the main point is people should be doing something, and that something is probably very specific and private for them. Like, I don't learn by listening, so that's no good for me for podcasts, right? But Dre maybe does learn by listening, so podcasts are perfect for her.
Yeah.
Right. And so loves to read, so reading is good for them. So and so loves community, so Jack barely reads, so he's got to go to the community to participate, right? And I think just doing something is what needs to happen.
Yeah, I would say the thing I love what you said is I love studying people that were successful, and then before they were successful, those like everyone looks at the final. You're like, oh, so and so made it, but when you study people's lives and you read their biographies, like almost everyone has that moment where like they were going to they've either failed significantly or they thought they were going to fail before they made it, right? Yeah. And I love those moments because that's where most of us are. You were like, you're in the battle and you think, oh, that's so easy for them. They made it, and you're like, I know, but you weren't there in their dark moments. You know what I mean? And so many.
It's one of the cruelest lies that's been perpetuated upon us as a society is that the world is run by exceptional people. No, it's not. Everybody's lives are fucked. The only difference is how you deal with it.
Yeah.
And some people have just found a better way to deal with it than others.
Well,
everybody's going through all these things.
The kids coming out, they're like, oh, I want to be like, when we interview folks, they're like, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, retired. I'm like, oh, you're one. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, there's so much hard work involved too. Like I get it. I know you're the next Zuckerberg, but for the other 99% of us, you have to work your ass off. So whatever.
That's a tricky thing now in terms of that's a generational thing, Jack, in terms of how you manage and lead, not just millennials, but Gen Z. They don't have the patience, and they don't need to have the patience anymore, to be honest with you. So we as companies and leaders have to meet them in their space where they are. We can't sit around and pine for the old days. The old days are not going to come back. Right. So the things that we've done and that we hold, so true and close for our value system is not the same things that a 22-year-old holds in their value system. So we have to create, career growth and opportunities to do things quickly, or they're going to leave. Amen. Right. And everybody is experiencing this right now.
Yeah, folks that are like, I can't wait till we go back to pre-COVID. I'm like, we're never going back. That's never, ever.
I'm with you.
Never coming back.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
No, we're never coming back. So I think we got the books, so the Surf and Sales Summit, the Thursday night sales. Anything else you're involved with? Because then I just want to shoot the breeze about your what goals you have in life. Any other big things you have going on that we should know about?
Well, my main job, is
Oh, your firm, yeah.
yeah.
Consulting firm.
My
Do
main
your
job.
thing. Do your thing.
No,
Yeah.
I work with early stage companies to help them scale, get off the ground and scale. I work with anywhere from 8 to 12 startups all around the world at a time.
Wow.
And, so anybody out there is like, got a good product, can't figure out how to sell it, can't figure out how to scale it. I kind of come in and advise and act as as guardrails to prevent you from, screwing up and doing something you're not supposed to do. And one of the added benefits of working with me is that I've managed to grow my network to this like fairly insane size. So it's enabled me to bundle in frontline recruiting services as well as executive level recruiting services into my consulting practice. So I'm not a recruiter. So as I help companies grow, they just inevitably are like, okay, we're in a good spot. Like, it's time for us to hire some salespeople and like put this shit to the test. I'm like, I got you. Let me make one post on LinkedIn and I'll have 24 names for you tomorrow. And then a couple months later, they're like, I think we need a full-time VP, Scott. This is like going pretty good. I don't have time to manage these people. I'm like, okay, let me make a post. Boom, got you. Here's 12 names. And so, it's and for anybody out there who's kind of questioning or wondering whether building your brand and growing your network matters and is important, I'm living, breathing proof that it's a really good idea to do and worth your time.
Amen. So just a couple quick ones. The move, used to live in California, moved to Austin. What was the genesis of that?
I moved in 2011, and honestly, it was a little bit of like, why be a small fish in a big pond when you can be a big fish in a small pond? A lot of it was cost of living. I lived 65 miles north of San Francisco. Yeah. That's the last place I was living. And I paid $750,000 for a 2,000 square foot house. And I had an 1.5 to 2.5 hour commute every day. Yes. Like, what am I doing? Why would I do that? Right. And a little bit of like weather change. I like the heat. So Texas was kind of appealing for me. Tax situation is good. So I was a little bit ahead of the curve, not all the way ahead of the curve, but, ahead of the curve enough that I was able to come here and be a part of, 3 of the fastest growing and largest companies in Austin over the last 10 years. And, make a little bit of a name for myself in this particular town. And I'm sure in 5 or 10 more years, Austin might be a little bit too big for me. And I'll be like, where's the next small town?
Satellite Beach. Satellite Beach. That's where I am. Listen, all the surfing. Kelly Slater's from here. Look, just south of Cocoa Beach. If you're surfing, look.
You live in Florida, Jack?
Yeah. We're all in Florida. Yeah.
Oh, that's a non-starter.
Have you ever been? Have you surfed here at Cocoa Beach?
I have not, no, but I know that Kelly is from there. Yeah.
All right, bro. Look, open invitation. You can stay at my spot.
I'll take you up on it. I've seen multiple great white sharks and tiger sharks in my life while surfing. And the reef shark situation in Florida is honestly like a little bit sketchier to me than the stuff that I'm used to.
My buddy
those things need about 6 inches of water, and they give no fucks at all. They come right up to the shore.
On CNN 3 years ago, true story. I used to live in Deerfield Beach. That's where we're headquartered. And my buddy, there's like 500 freaking sharks CNN's got over the water right in Deerfield Beach. Right near my home. I'm right off the beach. And my buddy's like, yeah, why don't you just run out there real quick? I'm like, oh, crap. Listen, I know we're out of time. I appreciate your patience. I know Steve has a question too, but listen, one other thing. 2021, right? We've been through a lot. COVID, sales, business world. Just your general thoughts, advice, goal setting, what you think 2021 is going to be. When you sit down with business folks, like what does this year look like? Things you'd nudge them to, your thoughts about the opportunities this year, kind of, what do you see happening as we start this year out and get over COVID, God willing.
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to go backwards in time actually a little bit, because I think what a lot of people's initial reaction was in March of last year was, okay, I just got to get through this.
Yeah.
And my reaction immediately was, and you already said this, Jack, but my immediate reaction was, this is the new norm.
Oh yeah. We're never going back. The industry Never. Some industries
Yeah.
were never going back. Schooling, healthcare, never going back. Never.
Yeah. And I immediately, adjusted. And I think there's still people out there who are kind of thinking, okay, we're getting near the end of this and then we can go back. And I just think that that's the wrong mentality, because even if you're wanting to go back to the way things are, the general population doesn't want to go back. I don't know what y'all's situation is, but that story I was just telling about having to commute in the Bay Area, you think people want to go back to that? There's no way in hell people are going to sign up for these 1.5 hour, 2 hour commutes anymore. So you're going to lose the talent wars if you're not careful, because nobody's going to want to come work for you, right? So if you're running a company, you better do a quick check that you're not trying to do what works for you, that you're trying to do what works for everybody who might want to come work for you one day. And the benefits and perks of business need to shift from all sorts of goodies in the office to, how can we take care of our employees outside of work? Mental health services, maybe more gym memberships and like physical health kind of things, more trainings and time on finances and personal development and stuff like that. So I really think that that's going to become a bigger and bigger deal as we progress this year.
You got one?
What's that? Yeah, you mentioned a couple times about being on Patreon, and I've seen other people sign up for that site, like first communities. Is that something that people should do out there that are looking to get exposure, or do you need a network like you of people to like get that out too? So I'm just curious your experience.
Well, it's a content creator platform, okay, that allows you to monetize your goods. Yeah. So, there's artists on there, there's bands on there, and there's content creators, authors, and whatnot, and not all that many business people on there. So, last summer, my good friend Kevin Dorsey, who's a sales leader,
we got Katie's been on.
Yeah.
He's your neighbor now, isn't he? He's right.
I could literally throw a baseball. Probably take me 2 or 3 throws, and I can hit his house. That's how.
You guys get together this afternoon and be like, "That was the best time I ever had on an interview."
I'll do that. We'll go for a walk, and we'll discuss it. But yeah. Anyway, now you made me lose my train of thought. Patreon. Kevin tells me about this in the summer. He's like, "Hey, look at this thing that I'm about to launch tomorrow. Does it look good? Is it shit?" And I'm like, "What is this? What is this Patreon thing?" I'm like, people are going to pay you monthly to deliver private content to them and private trainings and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, this is genius. How long have you been working on this? He's like, oh, a couple months. And remember what I said before about the delta between idea and action?
So quick.
I launched my shit 36 hours later, Steve.
Okay.
36 hours later, boom, I was up. So now I have like 325 people who pay me $10 a month to get content that I put out there that I don't put anywhere else. Wow. I advertise jobs because remember, I'm working with startups all over the place, right? And I get access to who's going to be hiring before it ever goes public. So I share those kind of openings and whatnot. I take phone calls and give people my email address and text message so they have access to me at any time as like an advisor if you got a question about something. So, somebody like Dre would like take a screenshot of this email response she got and she'd text it to me and be like, how would you respond to this person? So I just reply and kind of help out. I run these in Patreon only private trainings called Tequila Tuesday. Tequila is the only thing I drink other than water. That's it. 2 drinks, water or tequila. That's it. I don't mix them. Those are the only 2 things I ever drink. So I run Tequila Tuesdays and, I have guests come in and talk about things like SaaS metrics, mindfulness. I had a psychologist come in one time. I've had wealth managers come in. Remember, I was talking about training the whole person, not just talking about training you on your sales pitch. So that's basically, what it it is, Steven. It becomes a little micro community, and as a content creator, it's a way for you to, monetize what you're up to. So now it pays for. I own 3 houses in Texas, and Patreon covers 2 of my mortgages. Awesome. I just started it in the summer. So one thing that 2020 should have taught everybody is trying to survive on one income and one job is a scary fucking proposition because you never know what can happen. Yeah. So a benefit of having a big network, right, and having your hands in all these cookie jars is it allows you to go forth and build something like Patreon and make some significant income out of it. So if you don't have that network, Steven, and you go build a Patreon account right now, I don't know who's going to come, and I don't know who's going to pay.
The Eagles fans, hard. Listen, Scott, thank you so much for your time. You know what's fun? One thing you said, when all this started, all those people we used to idolize that would like just go to shows and talk and make like $30,000 per speech. I'm like, all those people were suffering in March and April. I'm like, oh, it's good to like have a real job for a while. You know what I mean? When all those folks like, I go to the show and I talk and I'm like, I know, but there's no more shows. So all those people all of a sudden had to go find real work. So totally agree with that. Hey, listen, thank you so much for your time. Who's your pick in the Super Bowl? Who you got? Are you recovered from your bills? Who you got?
I refuse to pick in this game. I refuse. I have spent 2 decades suffering under the thumb of Tom Brady and his Patriots, so I cannot bring myself to root for Tom Brady under any circumstances. And I have a growing fear that Patrick Mahomes is the next Tom Brady, and my Bills will be buried under his thumb. So I kind of hope they end in a fucking tie. To be
I was going to say, like 0-0.
0-0. Both of them threw 5 interceptions.
The world.
Who do I think is going to win? I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I can't root for either team.
I'll just say, listen, Tom Brady's living right when the dude throws 3 interceptions and a half and still wins. I mean, in a playoff game, 3 interceptions and a half, you think you're done, but nope.
I don't want to talk about this anymore, Jack.
All right, I'll let you go. Listen. Thank you so much. God bless you. The best. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Scott, we will have all his things in the notes and the comments of the show. Amazing what he's doing. You can go to his LinkedIn profile. You'll see all the companies he's working with. Amazing resources. He said, go get yourself some information up. You'd be great at what you do. Amen. Thank you, Scott, so much for your time. God bless.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Listen, before we go, a couple wrap-up things really, really quick. One is don't forget, if you follow us on LinkedIn, we're doing the Gov Sales Hall of Fame. So if you know anybody that works in the Gov sales arena, whether a salesperson or a vendor helping folks be great at government sales, we really want to recognize those folks. It's something we're doing corporately. And so I just think it's a great way to acknowledge what's happening out there. It's been a challenging year. And so really want to start this process. God willing, it goes on for many, many years. And so if you know somebody, go into the website, nominate someone you think is very, very deserving. It'd be awesome. Great award. They're going to get a huge trophy. We're going to do a press release. And one day, God willing, after COVID, we'll have actually an award ceremony, real legit. So if you know anybody that would be deserving, go nominate them. Huge. We do a sales reps, vendor, and lifetime achievement award. Go. It's easy way. It's totally for free. Go, nominate one of your friends. Great opportunity. And then last, Steve, I'll set this up for you. We're having a webinar in just a couple weeks on the 17th. We're going to do in honor of Valentine's Day, how to create relationships with government agencies in the spirit of Valentine's Day in February and love. Steve, what's the URL? Do you know? It's
it's easy to do. GovSalesUniversity.com/webinar.
There it is.
Yeah, very, very easy. It goes down to, got the love and the hearts, that's for February. It goes back to what Scott Leese was saying, right? We're trying to connect people, right? And everyone thinks sales is just like pitching your product and saying how great you are, but it's really just connecting with folks, seeing what the problems are. And that's the relationship part of sales. And people lose that when it comes to government. So we want to help educate you. It's not just sitting behind a computer responding to RFPs. That is not how that's a reactive style. That's not going to make you successful at all. So we want to teach you to be proactive, call these agencies, let them know who you are, do some Zoom calls like this, and really form those connections. So got a lot of tips and tricks. So join us on the 17th at 12 noon. You can just register at govsalesuniversity.com/webinar.
Go. Dre, any last words?
No, it was good. Let's just remember to put all his books, all his little tips in the comments. That way he shares his knowledge with everybody.
Yes. Amazing. That's great. Listen, enjoy the game. Hopefully your team wins. See you all next Wednesday. God bless. Stay safe. Woo!
Yeah.
Enjoy the game.
See ya.